5, 4, 3, 2, 1, fire. The only thing we have to fear is fear.
Mile 18.
This is Endurance Nation.
Hey there, Coach Patrick here from Endurance Nation with a special word for those of you looking to improve your winter training. We've created the Out Season. If you haven't heard about it, it is the 14-week focused program that has minimal hours, maximal results, designed to take your endurance fitness that you build all season long and turn it into something that's both manageable and productive in the winter. Most endurance athletes take the winter off. They adventure, they recover, they go aerobic, they go long. We don't do that inside Endurance Nation. We've inverted the commonly mistakenly understood equation for endurance and noted that you can actually build really strong functional threshold power in the winter when we don't have corresponding volume demands on our lives. And so we do that with the Out Season. If you're looking to learn more, go to endurancenation.us/out season. From there, you can download our Out Season PDF, learn all about how it works, and get up to speed with a few emails in terms of getting your winter dialed in so you can be your personal best this season. Don't hit the spring gasping for air, trying to figure out if your equipment works and trying to get yourself ready for that race in short order. Spend all winter with us inside the team, training together, working together, learning together, building an engine that's going to sustain you not for the entire year, but beyond that with this year-long consistent training program brought to you by Endurance Nation.
Hey everyone, Coach Patrick here, back with another Coach Broadcast, Coach Weekly Update. It is December, hard to believe, which means it's time to start thinking about the end of the season. And this month, I'll be walking you through a series of methodologies we use inside the team to help our athletes not only capture what they did this year, but to plan ahead better, right? So the end of the year is typically full of a couple things, obviously travel, logistics, challenges. It also can be full of regret, right? In terms of, coulda, shoulda, wouldas, which is a hallmark of type A athletes like you listening to this podcast, all the things that you regret. But hopefully there's some highlights there as well, things that you did do well. And I definitely encourage, regardless of what you take from this podcast or future broadcasts coming out, that you have at least an equal balance. For every negative thing that you find, be sure to find a positive as well, because they do exist. It's hard to sometimes think that way, but there are highlights to your year. Perhaps not things you control, and that's a big differential, which is thinking about things we set out to do. I'm going to do X, and then X doesn't happen, and what stops you from X? Forces outside of your control. But there are some things that are positive that are also out of your control that you should reflect on as well. So don't just look at your actions, look at your year and decide the negatives and the positives and make sure there's an equal balance there. Today, I want to talk a little bit about where we usually start with our negative feelings, emotions, when we get to the end of the season, and that revolves around race performance. So we set out the year, January of the year, saying, okay, looking ahead, 12 months, I'm going to crush this year. It's going to be phenomenal. I've got the story in my mind. I've written it out. It's a lot like the fairy tale stories where the hero comes rushing in, she slays the dragon, and life goes on. Everything is great, right? Awesome. Slay the dragon. Let's do it. Go. And then the year happens, right? And our hero has to journey, and there's ups and downs. Our hero gets injured, which never happens in the fairy tales or the movies. The hero has to rebound. She fights her way through. She has a good race, perhaps not the best race possible. Maybe we don't slay the dragon. Maybe we just sort of hurt the dragon. The dragon has to go away, but it may come back future. And the townspeople are happy with us, but maybe not so happy because the dragon could come back. You get the idea, right? So maybe not as perfect as we had planned. And so when we think about going back to our races, the way that most people evaluate our races is very binary. As human beings, we love to just sum things up. Good or bad race? Was it good? What do other people consider good? And we start there, which is wrong. Okay, we start by saying, did I or did I not set this time? Like I had a goal. Maybe I wanted to qualify for somewhere. Maybe I want to set a personal best. If I did, I had a good race. If I didn't, I had a bad race. And that's a terrible way to go think about racing. There's zero growth opportunities inside that space. We talk about growth mindset. We talk about grit a lot inside the team. And these are elements that reward effort, reward decision-making, and don't focus so much on the outcomes, because good outcomes are a result of great process. Great process is by rewarding effort and inputs. And if we just focus on the outcomes, we don't have a better process. And people without better processes, athletes without better processes, do the same thing over and over again. So if you find yourself in that rabbit hole, if you find yourself coming out, being like, today's going to be a great day, falling flat on your face, and then going back in and saying the next day, today's going to be a great day, and falling flat on your face, if that's you on race day or just in general, maybe it's time to start revisiting what we're doing here, getting away from outcomes that we place on the values based on others, and instead go dive deep inside. And we use our 4 keys of race execution for that. Very simple process, very effective, and I'll use this as an opportunity to remind you about that. And also let you know that we do have a race execution course that you can take online. It's an email course, totally free. Go to EnduranceNation.us/4keys. That's FOURKEYS. You'll be able to enroll in that course for free and walk through the process around your race. But today, I'm going to use the 4 keys in recapping your year, okay? Okay, the 4 keys, just as a reminder, race day is about execution, not fitness. Nothing matters until the line. We get to the line by staying inside the box. And at the end of the day, when things get really tough, we break out that one thing, okay? So race day is about execution, not fitness. So let's go back. Let's go back to your race. Let's take a look at the moments where you made decisions strategically versus just trying to win the local hill, just trying to push past someone else. In every race, there's an opportunity, multiple opportunities to make a decision. Really, race day is really just a series of decisions. And you have to decide what you're going to do in this situation. Are you going to accelerate past the competition, push them away, get aggro, or are you going to make a strategic decision and say, you know what, I need to be smarter here. And at the end of the day, we want you to be smarter. So step back, take a look at your race and decide where you are smarter versus harder, okay, which is a really big differential. So for me, I'll go take you back to Leadville. This year did my first Leadville 100 mountain bike race. And one of the key execution decisions that I made was making sure 2 things that were really key for me execution-wise. Number 1, the first climb, St. Kevin's, which is really steep. It's about a mile long, but hella hard and as crowded as heck because your wave is all there. I made the commitment to stay inside my box. Even though people were racing past me on all sides, I thought that would be too dangerous, too aggressive. I stayed inside my box. I was rewarded for that because when my chain popped off, I was mentally in the right space just over the top to put it back on, no problem. Second time that execution really made a difference for me was coming back in right around mile 70, 75, where I decided to stop. I had to stop and reset mentally instead of just trying to push through. Pushing through wasn't working. And I made a stop there, realized my time, was able to pivot and save my day and have a phenomenal, strong end to my race. But it wasn't unless I had stopped. Now, there's plenty of times where you can look at the race where there's just opportunities for you to go harder, right? Like, so everyone's going hard, I should go hard. Everyone's going left, I should just go left too because everyone's going left. And the smart athlete, the one using the 4 keys, steps back and says, where am I right now in relation to my race, in relation to my desired performance, in relation to my peers? And what am I missing? What do I not see here? How do I make the best possible decision? And so we really want to focus in on that. So go back to your race and find those good decisions that you made, and also find those decisions that you opted for fitness instead. Like, I'm just going to go hard, I'm going to surge, I'm going to yell at someone. Like for me in Leadville, it was the flat section coming down power line. There's a flat section, maybe 10 miles. It's not long enough, I'll tell you that, before you start going over to some single track and make your way over to the dam where there's refueling and so on. See your support crew. And so it's a flat section. So it's a great opportunity to make up time. And so it's a big peloton. But here's the thing, on mountain bikes, and with the huge climb coming at the middle of the course right there, nobody wants to climb up Columbine tired. So everybody is saying, oh, I'm just going to sit in. No one wants to work, but it's a time to work. So you're trying to pull through and you get to the front and pull and nobody comes through, get to the front pull. So I was so mad by the time I got up there that nobody was pulling. I was like, come on, you dogs, like yelling at people, and nobody wanted to pull. But I tried to use my fitness, maybe not the best or brightest use of my fitness. So every race has an opportunity to look at those decisions, execution column, fitness decision columns. Let's see how those equal out. Did you neutralize them? What could you do more on the execution side? What won't you do next time? Capture those lessons learned. All right, great. Let's move to the next one, the line. Okay, if we talk about the line being, that's the place on race day when things really go forward, right? So the line is a place where you decide ahead of the race, hey, this is where things are going to get hard. I'm going to prepare myself through my execution processes early on that I get to the line ready, that I can go forward and be strong, right? Where's that demarcation line? So in a marathon, we call it people say the wall. It's usually in an open marathon, it's about mile 21, 20. In an Ironman marathon, we call it mile 18. If you're doing Leadville, it's probably like mile 80. 85, as you're kind of climbing back up power line where you know that's going to be where things get really hard. And so you think about all those different elements in your race and there's a line. So you start before the race knowing what your line is going to be or anticipating that line, and then race day comes, right? And then you hit a line somewhere else. So this is an opportunity for you to reflect back and be like, where did I think the line was going to be for my race? Left-hand column, right-hand column, where was the line? Like, where did it actually happen? Where did things start to fall apart? So going back to my Leadville experience from this past year, I imagined that the climb back up to power line in reverse would be brutal, and it was. What I didn't anticipate was that I was going to be in trouble long before then because my back had really tightened up. Like, I was just exhausted on the bike. The work required to push the bike at the top of Columbine at altitude when I fell off on the goat trail was brutal, and it really just torqued my core. I was lucky. I'd done lots of core work. I've been wearing a weighted vest around, doing dog walks, like getting stronger, but even that wasn't enough, and I was really struggling. So takeaways for me there are, I need to do more core strength if I'm going to be successful at these long-term endurance events. I've just got to be super awesome in that area. And then I also have to be prepared to stop and do damage control, which I did, but it took me long enough to get there, right? The good thing about my damage control choice was I did it at an aid station. I didn't do it in the middle of nowhere. I've made that mistake before as well. And so definitely understanding that the line is different based on the terrain. First time Leadville, I didn't know, but if you're doing a repeat race like a marathon or an Ironman or 70.3 or whatever it is you're doing, and you continually run into that same situation, same problem, then we have to make some adjustments. The line may theoretically be somewhere, but if your line continually comes somewhere else, we need to adapt and adjust. We can adjust our training, we can adjust our mindset, and we can adjust our damage control methodologies and approaches for that. All right, awesome. Okay, next up, the third key is the box. And the box is what we take, and that's what we use on race day to make sure that we avoid all those poor decisions, and we make sure that we stay focused on what we can control. Okay, so in the case of my bracing in the past, particularly looking back at Leadville, the things inside my box were my nutrition. They were my aid crew, like people who could help me stay motivated, the people that kept me on track. I'd done a lot of prep with my friends out there beforehand, so I knew what the course was going to look like. So I had plans inside my box as well in terms of how I wanted to execute stuff. So that was really helpful. Things I did not have inside my box that were chances to impact me on the day. One, the people I was riding with, like I had no idea who the group was going to be, what my wave was going to look like. And it wasn't terrible, but it wasn't great either. I couldn't control the descending. I wasn't prepared, for having 500 people go down power line together. That was terrifying and something that I was not ready for. Probably in retrospect, probably good. I didn't know it was going to be like that, but it was definitely a bit overwhelming for me, who's not a great descender. And another thing that was outside of my box was the weather. We lucked out. It was a great weather day, but it could have been worse. And if it had been worse, I'm not sure where I would have ended up because it was pretty brutal. It was actually quite warm, but terribly warm, but that was an issue as well. And so the things that I ran into trouble with on the race day, number one, was I was able to keep my nutrition up early, and the nutrition saved me at the end of the day. That was huge. And I ate like an Ironman would eat, and that was a big differentiator, I believe, between me and the average Leadville racer. But my contacts were brutal. Like I lost my contacts, one going before I went up Columbine, the other one coming down Columbine. It was on the descents, just like lots of staring, not blinking, and my eyes dried out. Definitely in a tough spot there. Thankfully, I was able to hold on. But the contacts, and thankfully, I had contacts in my special needs bag when I got back to the dam, so I could, on the second time, when I came through, so I could go ahead and just get those contacts back in, which was huge, and allowed me to keep riding and be aggro and not be defensive because of eyesight. That could have been a big challenge for me as well. And then I also just knew what my power targets were, which was really helpful. And I'd made some adjustment targets based off of the altitude and the changes. What I anticipated climbing at was A, but what in reality was very different. I climbed to 10,000 feet on St. Kevin's, but I had not climbed up beyond that. And when I got to Columbine and was up closer to 12,000 feet, it was pretty brutal. And I wasn't prepared for how hard that was going to be. So that was outside of my box. I couldn't control it, but it was very frustrating. And I hadn't really practiced pushing my bike, and I wasn't good at it either. So in terms of the box discussion, things that I would do differently, I definitely would make sure that I'd have a better either glasses plan or an optional plan for eyesight, because that was pretty brutal. And there's got to be a way to solve that for sure long term. Okay. And things that I would change in terms of inside, outside of my box, I definitely would have been more had a bike racer mentality for that flat section and for working in a group. I got better at the end of the ride. Like when I was tired, like everyone's tired on a bike, you ride like you're supposed to ride on a bike. But when you're fresh on a bike, you tend not to ride like you're tired, right? So you tend to push, you tend to challenge. And there's a balance to that. You can push for a couple seconds, but we don't want to be up there for forever. And finding that balance of trying to get in there. So one of the things that I learned from Leadville, a key thing, you make a sound here too. Actually, wait, I'm going to pull out the lasers. Let's do the lasers here real fast. Is it like this? Is it like this? It's like this. I think it's like this. I don't remember. Yes. Lasers. Okay. Laser point for you right there. And one of the key elements on the race was we couldn't really get people to work together until there was this guy whose name I totally forget right now, but he was great. And what he did was he rode through, and when he was riding through, he would talk to people. So when you came off the front, he'd be like, "Hey, what's your name?" Patrick. He said, great. My name's, say he's Dan. Awesome. Hey, where are you from? I'm from here. Good. Nice riding. Have a great race, blah, blah. But he went through the whole peloton. It was like 8 of us. And when he did that in our small little group, by the time he got back to the front, he knew everybody. So he was starting to work. And when you came through again, he was like, hey, nice job, Patrick. And all of a sudden, I felt like we were a team because we knew each other's names. Super simple hack, but what a big differential. Instead of saying, nice pull, guy, or way to go there, lady, you got to know people's names. And all of a sudden, you started to build a little bit of a relationship. It's just enough glue to get the glue to work together. I would definitely use that next time going forward. That was a huge strategy change for me, something that I'm going to put inside my box because I can control that. I can't control how they behave, but I can control how I make friends. And I'm going to put that inside the box for a future bike race opportunity. All right. Okay. So the one thing. All right, what's the one thing? Now, this is like the break the glass, damage control. What do you do? The one thing for your race. So take a look back. You had a one thing ahead of your big race. When you used it at your race, did it work? Did it keep you aligned? Did you go? Did it make you work? And this is a tough one because some people choose abstract notions. Other people choose really physical ones. So if you chose, hey, at Leadville, I'm going to be under 9. And if you're not going to be under 9, then is the one thing even the one thing anymore? You need like a backup one thing, right? So how do you frame your one thing? And the lessons we learn from our races where we go and reach for that one thing and then use it really help us understand our motivation, the psychology behind why we race, and the levers that we can pull as athletes to be successful. So we always hear inspirational stories inside the team of the one thing and how it worked for different people. Some people like refer back to the training. Some people are racing for a time. Some people are racing for a performance. Some people are doing the curtain call. Others are doing their first one, and they have different perspectives and different senses of what success means. It's not just about time. For me at Leadville, my one thing was getting under 9 hours. Like that was definitely my goal. I thought it was in the reach. I've been challenged to do it by my teammates, which is always like good for me. And I'm a super time motivated athlete, and that allowed me when I got to my personal line there at mile 75, it allowed me to pull myself together and start making decisions when it was like, I got to the top of power line, just riding over the top there. And it was like, okay, do I recover? And really it was like, my one thing was like, no, sub 9 means you have to go. There is no resting. You have to hammer past these 5 dudes in front of you right now and get to the front so you can descend on your own. And that was the deciding factor for me the whole way through, which was like, I had to go. I had 2 choices, go easier or go harder. And I was like, I had to go harder. My one thing says go harder. Like I just pushed to the end until I can't push no more. And that's what I did. Got to the top of St. Kevin's. There's an aid station there on the reverse side. Just after you get off the pavement. And it was like, hey, aid station, like, you made it. Like, come here. Let me see your bike. I was like, no, you can't on my bike. I'm like, give me that Coke. They're like, oh, here, I'll open it for you. I was like, great. They're like, here, I'll hold your bike while you drink it. I was like, not stopping. Sorry. Drank the Coke, poured it on my face, threw it down, and started riding again. There's like a little climb after that aid station, which is pretty brutal. And I knew that would be rough. In fact, there's a bunch of kickers in there that were all brutal. Almost got off my bike like 3 times. But I had my one thing that was just driving. I also had Matt, who was there as well. It was just insane. Who was everywhere I needed him to be, just yelling at me. And so that was a cheat code for sure. But the one thing was that time, and I just hammered. And that really just drove it in for me, and I gave it all. And I was going to give it all until I got to the finish line, and I didn't trust my watch at all. I had set it to elapsed time, so I knew that there was no stopping when I stopped. Good call, team. But that was the thing. So when I look back at my race and look at the 4 keys, there's definitely opportunities for me to learn. There's places where I executed well, places where I could execute definitely better next time. There's the line that moved on me, but I have a strategy for that going forward now that I've thought about it. In terms of the box, some things worked really well and some things didn't. I found some new things I'm going to put in the box going forward, which are really helpful for me. And then finally, my one thing. I had a really good sense of what the one thing is. I know it really motivates me, and I was able to work towards that, which is really helpful. So applying this same framework for you as you think about your race season and how you race this year, again, it's a really great opportunity for you to turn a performance that is normally binary. Did I or did I not hit a time I wanted? Did I or did I not place an age group? And instead turn it into part of your process as to evolving as an endurance athlete, where you begin to learn about your strengths from all of the 4 keys. And you also learn about the opportunities you have to grow more. If you can capture those now by reviewing your race series, then you'll go ahead and you'll be in a much better place next year, because you can pull those lessons out and say, hey, going into my new races here. It's a new year. These are my races. What am I going to do differently based off of last year? What am I going to keep? What am I going to change? If you can go through that process over time, you become a phenomenal athlete, not relying just on good luck, good skill, and good fortune, but also being able to have this resource kit that you bring with you on the race, whatever that race may be, that allows you to be successful despite the conditions, despite the competition. And that's when you know you've really made it to that next level. You've broken through, and now your world is your oyster. All right. Okay, folks, thanks for tuning in. Coach Patrick here from Endurance Nation with another Coach Broadcast. Stay tuned. I'll be back in December with more information, more ideas and topics on the 4 keys and how you can make sure your upcoming season is your best season yet. Thanks, everyone. Take care. Have a fantastic week. I'll talk to you soon.
Endurance Nation.
Hey, podcast fans. I know you love the podcast because here you are, you're listening to it and you're still listening to me talk right now. Did you know you can get content just like this in your inbox once a month? We send out a great newsletter. We call it, guess what? The Unfair Advantage. That's right. It's our information to you, something that separates you from the competition. If they're not here, then they don't know. But if you are here, then now you do. Zero excuses. If you go check us out online at endurancenation.us/newsletter, it's your opportunity to enter your email address, sign up for these updates. They come once a month, sometimes twice a month, depending on my race schedule. And it's your chance to get insider information that's going to help you become a better, smarter athlete. Don't miss out on this chance to get ahead of the competition. It doesn't cost you any money, and it's not a ton of work. It's just your email address. That's endurancenation.us/newsletter.
For more information about Endurance Nation, visit us online at endurancenation.us. The provided music is from the Podshow Podsafe Music Network. Check it out at music.podshow.com.